Hello, friends, family, and fellow patriots. Welcome to our third episode of Travesty of the Game. The name of today's episode is Going Postal. We are going to focus on everything related to the current recounts. Currently, the only experience in knowledge or expertise that we have in this domain would be related to Pennsylvania. Trump's currently losing by 40,000 votes, so it's going to take some extenuating circumstances here to change the outcome. However, there are some swing states where there are some variables that could create a rather large change in the current population counts. We're going to get into all that. My one guest, our producer, Alec Italiano, you can't hear him right now because he failed to record the first 2.5 minutes. Sorry about that. The first 2.5 minutes of the show. I'm doing a soft open on voice memo. Bear with us. Please bear with us. Every day we make an error, but we improve it. We'll correct it. We won't make it again next time. He's currently working for the state. My other buddy Craig here has some post office experience, has spent some time in the fracking fields. I myself used to work for the DNC, voted for Trump voted for the president in this past election. Still kind of working through. I mean, am I a Republican yet? I haven't changed parties, but as you'll see throughout this episode, I mean, I'm falling on one side. It's feeling kind of unnatural. Either way, I hope you guys enjoy the episode. We're going to be picking up here on a discuss on specifically PA state laws and what voter expectations were going into election night. Good luck. Have fun. I hope you enjoy the episode.
Is if Pennsylvania decides that we have, because a lot of these ballots that shouldn't have been counted have been counted. We don't know the ones off to the side. We think in PA they should be mostly Biden because this was people who basically you could cast your vote in the mail up until 8 o'clock on November 3rd. If you went to stand in line, like you plan on taking 15 minutes to vote for Biden, it's a 2-hour line, you go home and you just cast your mail-in ballot. Now, you had to have had it in advance, but that is all that would be required. Like Dylan and Chesley,
right? They
take their ballot, like they got the mail-out ballot, they wanted to vote in person, they take the mail-out ballot to vote in person. That vote, I believe, is now stored away.
It's not being. It's like on the sidelines.
If you brought your mail-out ballot back on the day of, I think that might be, which might help in Trump's.
No, I don't think so. Because I got the mail-in ballot.
Okay, yes, and then so you took it in.
I took it in, and I had to sign a release for it basically, and then I went and voted just like everybody else would. Now, the way it becomes a provisional ballot is if you show up without the ballot in hand and you signed up for it, then it's provisional. So is that what Dylan chose?
Yes.
What did they do?
They lost it. Yeah.
What did they do with your ballot after you signed your release? Did they stamp it or anything?
No, they shredded, I think.
They did?
Yeah.
Like in front of you, or did they?
They didn't. They put it in a box called shredding, but
we're starting some more conspiracies.
Yeah, you got to draw a line somewhere.
Which what we're going to try and do here is we're trying to figure out what is these are all conspiracies because nothing's proven yet. This is why we have court cases. We're going to try and go through the different scenarios and see exactly what is probable,
right,
and what is not. With these particular ones that we're talking about, though, in Arizona, I believe it is all those ballots that were cast day of, all mail-out ballots that were brought in.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they were refilled in as, I think they except they had you fill out your ballot in person and accepted them as mail.
Okay.
Like they took it and then they basically put it as if they had to process, like it was sent it through the mail, and it wasn't processed for like 3 or 4 days.
Which state are we in here?
Arizona.
Okay.
No, and I'm not. That's where the count. Trump was down when I took these numbers 3 days ago in Arizona. Trump was down 14. 3 days ago he was down 44. Right now he's down 10. Oh, I'm sorry. He's down less than that. He's down. Oh no, down 12,000. Yes, with I believe 16,000 left to count. So it depends which way those break. We don't know if they're even going to count. These in Pennsylvania specifically.
Yeah,
that's a court case. We're just gonna have to wait on.
So I can't specifically remember what it was, but what did the Supreme Court change in Pennsylvania without using the legislature like a month or two ago? you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
I heard one of the guy from Allegheny talking about.
Isn't this what we talked about last time with the voting?
they changed the way it just had to be. What they at first required is it didn't even need to be post stamped by November 3rd.
Yeah.
They just up until November 14th.
Yeah, it was the late
If it
voting
came
thing
in.
because
Signature
the Republicans
verification.
pretty much. I mean, this was. I guess their thinking was not to like telegraph the results, but
would
they
be bad
didn't
for
want them
morale,
counting
a bunch of early
Yeah,
ballots.
which was kind of. But it's kind of stupid. Like, why not?
So instead, do this.
But
yeah, this
but
is
they're still
this
gonna
is
count.
way worse.
But
Yeah,
I don't think the Supreme Court voted on that. That was
That was the
something-
problem is they never.
It never got there. But the real issue was
they kicked it 4-4. The Supreme Court made no. The Supreme Court.
well, the
our
Republicans
state.
never kicked it up to the Senate. Is what really happened because they wanted they didn't.
But yeah, they did it without using the legislature, which is just that could cause something.
They
to
were
be-
trying to get it through the legislature. They just
but they
couldn't.
didn't.
They
just
couldn't agree
passed
to
it without it.
terms.
The
They
problem
couldn't-
is that they did it without going through the proper channels,
Yeah, if you can't come to terms, the court doesn't.
which
just
could be.
decide.
It could be either
No.
side's fault. It could be a combination.
the court will come to
just that-
decide now because it's going to be a
The
lawsuit.
court shouldn't decide though.
you know,
The
well,
court shouldn't be
Brett-
making our rules and
I think
laws.
Brett
They're
Kavanaugh
supposed-
said that, right?
They're supposed to interpret.
It was,
Yeah.
it would be, and that's the big thing with the court now is it's
Right.
that probably will not
Yeah.
be allowed. The Supreme Court,
They're not
writing,
sup-
the gist of it is the Supreme Court can't write legislature.
Right.
They,
Yeah.
they can correct it. They can strike
They're
it
supposed to
down.
interpret it.
Yes,
Yeah.
but they can't
So
write
what
on-
they did in PA could end up being thrown out if it goes to the high court, considering
No, it won't though.
considering the
because-
slant on the court now.
because they
More
made a
towards
ruling
constitutional.
after Congress already tried to make a compromise and failed. That's so it's nothing's going to get kicked out on that conspiracy theory, Craig. I hate
But
to
that
break
is
it to you.
well, it's not a conspiracy theory. It's
well, okay.
This-
in
we-
that
this is a
scenario,
current, this is a current travesty of the game. We have rules that
Yeah.
we don't really
But
have
that's Trump's
something that
only
we can
path
read. We
is-
have to wait for people to decide and,
Yeah.
and interpret.
he has to be able to get those votes thrown out.
right.
And-
Which no, I don't think he does. I think in that scenario, the most likely case is Pennsylvania gets their electors tossed,
Yeah.
and maybe Nevada or Michigan, who have some
Tossed all together.
tossed out of the no longer possible to 270.
Oh,
So Biden can lose PA, but if he loses one other state's electoral votes,
Right.
neither one of them get to 270.
again, that's why Nevada was so important.
Yes,
Yes.
It gets kicked to the state delegations.
Right.
The 48 good.
then they
the 48
decide.
that managed to conduct an election reasonably, and I think Trump then has a 25-23 red state
Advantage.
advantage.
Now, wasn't there an example of this happening in the past where like the state delegates changed their mind before they formally got cast?
couple of times,
Was this
yes.
1968? It happened most recently.
In Hillary, there were a couple of people that switched from Trump to pick. There were 2 or 3 from Colorado, I think, that voted against their state's decision
Yeah.
to go to Hillary, not Trump.
Now that to me should be going to the courts.
It
Craig.
did. It
Yeah,
did, and
I
it's
mean,
legal.
And like, how does that get
It's
through?
legal, and
Yeah.
it was this court case. I can't remember the name of it. It was in the last couple of years. They were allowing electors to vote their conscience. In
Right.
some states, you can't
Which is, but then it's like, what's the point of voting? You know what I mean?
But
Like,
yeah, it's pretty. It's pretty. If an election was decided on the electors, that would be like the broker convention and the Democrats. I don't think anybody's going to be happy with it. You're supposed to do what your state says. It's
right.
pretty
right.
much. We all vote
It's-
understanding that
Yeah.
we don't care who the electors are supposed to be more symbolic than actual acting. In this scenario, though, we don't get the 270. That changes the whole process.
I feel like them being able to vote their conscience is like if there's a last second like rape allegation against the candidate that they've chosen.
in some like extreme situation.
Those kind
Yeah.
of things. That's why they leave that open, I think.
Yeah.
But it has happened
But people
where-
use it to their advantage,
If
right?
if Joe Biden were to go down, if he
Yeah.
gets sick in the next month,
Right.
the electors are going to
They're
basically
going to vote their conscience.
the because Kamala Harris
Is
wouldn't
that a
be-
travesty of the game, Greg?
I kind of think so.
I do too.
kind of think so. This is a
I do
little bit
too.
of like where the rules are falling short. The public, like the whole point of all these rules is for us
Yeah.
to trust the results of the game.
I mean, this happens to me at work all the time. You're always kind of coming up with these what if situations. What if this? What if that? You know, and it's like, well, we're just going to have to like make a decision based off of the less what ifs as we,
Yeah.
But-
I get it. If it can happen, it can happen.
Fun
but-
fact. If the electors, let's say nothing happens here, Biden is picked by the electors and he goes down early January. They just pull him. They finally just admit what is actually wrong that we all can see.
Yeah.
At that point, Kamala Harris, president, Nancy, VP. If this happens before December 12th, the Democratic DNC can advise the electors on who they want their candidate to be.
Oh, really?
And Kamala Harris be the VP. And because it's the electors are consenting on whether it's Kamala, whether it's Hillary, Andrew,
Greg's
I
prediction.
still have a bet, $3,500.
that he won't.
$3,500
That's-
I would if this happens.
How much did you put down to get to that?
Well, fun fact, Bovado, they took down the gambling lines. After
really?
that disaster we talked about,
Yeah.
gonzo. They have football, everything else. No, you can't bet on politics at the
They
time.
must have been listening, Greg. They must have been listening.
No, I think somebody bet a lot of money on Trump when they saw that red map, like an unholy amount.
And that changed the lines.
I've never seen something move like that. Like
Yeah.
only like the day traders. I'm trying to think like some members of the gambling community went hog wild.
What if it was Trump himself?
That's one of my things. As we talk about the ethics of should we be able to gamble on politics, or I mean, it's like betting on yourself in sports. The only thing is when you bet against yourself, because that's the kind of thing where people are like that. That's where
Then you're like,
yeah, nobody has a problem with you betting on yourself. It's a problem with betting against yourself.
Is there any
Right.
laws against
and
that?
throwing it.
Yes. What?
Is there any laws against that, or is it like in sports? It's just the league that throws you.
But you can't. And these sites are all offshores that ran these. I don't think Fox Sports like they did prop bets, but they didn't actually do money lines on.
I mean, Donald.
State.
It could have been all the kids did it.
I wouldn't. Well, one of my
Oh, that's
things-
what. Or somebody tied to Trump.
If
yeah,
I
that's
was a
what-
candidate, I would be telling my supporters, don't give me $10. Go bet $10 on this site and get my lineup, and you'll win.
Right.
If we're right, we
Right.
win. It looks good for me because I can walk around saying, fuck the polls. I got this
mean,
right here.
this has
on
been happening
The
in-
money likes me. I don't know about
This has been
these
happening in
Nate Silver.
sports for years. You know, I mean, this
Don't
is
yeah,
nothing new here.
don't give me the money. Bet on me, and then that'll make me look like that's. What am I gonna do with this $10?
England does this, right? You can bet on anything.
Paddy Power. That was 2016. That was our original.
That's right. That's
that was
what I
Crash
thought. That's
Hall.
how you got it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So yeah, that fun fact about the Bovada lines.
Yeah. Now you told me I'm supposed to defend the post office.
Yes. Okay.
during the show.
We'll get back into. I'm gonna. So that first thing we talked about, the first travesty of the game, was that's kind of like I think a low percentage scenario where that can occur, and if it does occur, there's
In the post office?
no. We actually to throw electors
Oh, if
for
we're
the
able to
Supreme
actually-
Court to overturn
Yeah.
a votes. Or to toss a vote or to overturn it would be a very dramatic thing to do.
Yeah, I don't really
Very
see it
dramatic.
happening. But
That's what I'm saying. I mean,
I
it's-
just feel like
Okay.
that's Trump's only path, which
Well,
he seems very
no,
confident
see,
about.
and
this is Trump's thing. He lawyers up.
This
you
is
know,
where
he
now
lawyers up.
I'm going to be playing. I don't know how much. I guess by the time I'm done making this argument, I'll see how much I believe it.
Okay.
Because this is something where I was a Democrat and I always rolled my eyes at Republicans and their voter fraud and the zombies votes
Yeah.
and the buses of illegals.
I'm still a Democrat doing that.
Yes, and it's like so, and I was very much vocally against that because to cheat, you had to show up in person. Potentially, if you're an illegal immigrant, get yourself arrested.
Right.
If it's like so,
Right.
like it's not, and you get fined, and you can go to jail.
It's happening. It's just not on a small scale.
It's not enough not to overthrow. Right now, we have Trump down in PA 49,000, in Georgia 14 under recount, Arizona 14 that'll be under recount, Nevada 36. We'll kind of wait and see on Clark County here. Wisconsin 20,000. So these are the 5 states that it's within an amount that would require. Like in the state like Pennsylvania, how many people voted? Like 3 million, 6
No,
million,
6 million. It was like 3.5
Yeah, 3.5.
each,
Yeah, yeah. So we have 6
7 or million.
6 million people vote. What
Mm-hmm.
chance of error? Like out of 600, like there only needs to be 50,000. Is not that much. Of
Yeah,
60.
but see, this isn't a
We're talking
poll.
like 5%.
There isn't a standard deviation here.
You theoretically, when
You
we
know
go
what I
through this
mean?
count, there should be a percentage error on both sides. There should be Democrats.
Have they done that in
and
the
Repub-
past? I mean, is there anything to baseline that off of?
I mean, you can audit a vote. I sure hope
I
we
mean, they're
can
doing
do
it in
this.
Georgia right now, and they're going to do a hand count.
I mean, you
So,
can do
we're
a-
going to see if it
You
changes.
can do a recount. I mean, that's
No, but I'm
But
talking
the-
an audit. No, you check to make sure the vote is legitimate. Not you just recount it. You make sure.
But if you recount it,
That's. I don't think that's ever been done before because we never had this scale of mail-in votes before.
No,
right?
the
Yeah,
travesty of the game. We are turning the post office. It was never, before the mail-out balloting, it was never political. They had a 91% approval rating.
Yeah.
Right now, I think half the country hates the mailman. And they shouldn't.
Craig.
But before,
no, some of them you might.
well, we had poll places.
Craig was the former postman.
But
Yeah.
before COVID, 2016, we had poll places that we knew that we didn't trust each other to count ballots. We had a Democrat and Republican standing
in the same
there
room, and
keeping
there
track.
was a protocol for that.
We just added a mail to over 1/3 of all ballots sent in. We just had
Yeah.
a new man that's an intermediary, or we had a new organization that stored the
do
votes.
people open mail?
Yes,
Is
people
it
open
like a
mail.
thing? You
Yes.
know, I mean, it's like
The
a joke,
political
but
mail is a
does it actually
huge deal.
happen?
We're crazy.
I mean, isn't that what the whole point of the secrecy envelope and everything?
Let's do
like
that first. Craig,
Now,
the integrity of the mail. That's where I guess before.
Well, that's what. Okay, if people like are blatantly breaking the law.
Yeah.
And like opening the mail and like
If
that
you
should be
wanted to cheat, Craig.
that should be a separate investigation though.
So I don't.
Yes,
I don't.
but we
I
can
don't
tell
think like you're.
in the audit we can tell irregularities if all of a sudden if on a route no Republican votes came in at all, but every single one of the Democrats did. That's worth. Call some people on that road and
that
say
is possible,
not
though.
one of you. It is,
and you can't even if you
So
call
we
them, they
concluded-
could be lying.
Yeah, they could be lying.
You know what I
they
mean?
they would lie whether I think you'd want to know if it says you voted.
Yeah, but they
If you
could be
tell 'em-
senile and like say one thing and actually
Okay.
did the other. Like
If
you
there's-
can't rely on that.
If you're senile, how'd you get to fill out a ballot?
I mean, I thought that was always your point to like the old people's
Yeah.
homes and things like
But no,
that.
but before
so-
we
Which
had
we just had
absentee
that problem
ballot.
in Butler
We
with the
Yeah.
Allegheny County race.
Mm-hmm.
The whole entire old folks home returned their ballots at the same time, and they all voted the same way.
But see, that doesn't surprise me. Like everybody on the same street voting for Republican or Democrat,
Everyone
like
in
that.
an old folks home
Again, that
with the
could hap-
veterans that were in there.
If it's an old folks home where you have to, it's a very expensive one, and you have all Republicans in there. I mean,
What if
most
they're all-
most old people vote the
I
same
was
way.
gonna say the old people.
So-
old people cast their votes. We
Oh no,
I,
can
old,
tell the
old
voting
I don't
people-
agree with that. I
Old
don't
people
know.
vote, but
Alec,
I'm
we
saying
can pull the party
they're voting for
registry.
Social Security,
Alec,
Craig. I mean, like at the end of the day,
we-
depending on the old
we
folks.
They
can-
vote.
don't vote.
You
the
can
same
pull
way.
party registry for
I've-
everybody
I've-
in the nursing home and see if they're all
You
they're
could.
all
You could.
Democrats or they're registered Republicans. You can actually tell the registry if they.
Like if I was going to a nursing home and I was 83, hopefully I get to 83.
Oh boy, okay.
I mean, I would
We're far
try to
out
do
there.
some research on like who are my neighbors there. Like, is this a left-standing old folks
Or
home or a
you've-
right-standing folks
or you've
folks
been-
home? I mean, I bet that's
Jesus.
a thing.
See,
I
I don't-
mean,
Or you've been voting the
I
same
want
way
to
your
live
whole
next to
life.
Democrat
and,
and
you're not gonna
Republican old people.
right.
change. So there's been a divide your whole life between them. They don't all vote the same.
And old people, I mean, those are your old blue dog Democrats. I mean, those are the ones that have voted Democrat
Union,
forever.
the union members,
the
the
working man, had a pension, now in an old folks home. They're voting old school.
I don't
you know?
believe that everyone on a street. I bet you might be able to fight.
I'm saying it's possible.
I don't know the statistics, but
If you go out to rural Latrobe, I bet
there's
I bet
always a
people on the
Biden
same
sign somewhere.
street-
There's always that one pissed off neighbor who wants to be different.
You have 100 streets. Maybe on 50, that's what happens. But on the other 50, you still have everybody voting for the same guy. So
I bet you.
Why,
I
why can't
personally
we check this? I mean, I'm just saying. Okay, I agree. I agree with what you're saying, Alec. And if I'm the Democrats and I did nothing wrong,
because
then I'm
you're-
saying,
Yeah, that would mean
check
that's your
it.
defense.
Call, call.
because your vote is supposed to be secret.
It's not. It's on a
supposed to be
database. We
yours.
all know our votes are not. It is stored. Your vote-
No. I mean, our
listeners,
our
if you
party,
think
our
your vote
party
is
is
secret. It is not.
Our party's on a database, but they can't look up. Alec Italiano definitely voted for this person or the other.
So
Yes, they most certainly can.
How are they coming up with
they
the-
can figure it out.
I can look at that right now.
The DCCC data.
Yes, I
Yeah.
can go right now and do
They're
that.
telling you who you voted the most and what they're like 99% most likely.
Whether they
gonna
voted
vote
with their
for,
party
but-
or against their party. Yes or no?
They know their skin color and who they voted for. They were able to tell you all these Mexicans
all these-
in Florida.
Again,
voted for Trump.
they're using data to
How do they know
interpret
that
a lot of that, but they don't know with 100% certainty that even though Alec Italiano always voted for a Democrat, that I did in this election.
Is your name on the ballot at all?
Not
I
yet.
never even thought to look at that on that
No.
paper ballot they print out.
That's what I'm saying. It's not. I mean, they're
know either.
counting.
But there's a barcode?
Yeah,
probably in the barcode.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
trust our
saved.
government.
It is
at all
saved. When you go to the
keep it
polling
in
booth, it
secret.
is saved.
the idea of it though is that it's supposed to be secret.
Yeah, but
you
it's
know, I mean,
It's secret, yeah, from your neighbors.
and again, even if you're making calls,
not from the government,
Yeah.
not from local
even if you're-
leaders.
even if you're making calls, you would need people to testify at court. That is what happened.
yeah, well,
like,
when right now,
if we're really gonna do this with evidence.
I hope over this month we are like, if I was sitting here looking at all this information that you're saying it doesn't exist, or you're admitting it does exist, we just don't get to see it yet.
I'm admitting that there's data out there, but they don't know for certain that I voted for X or Y.
In 2016, they do.
I mean, I would need a lawyer to tell me that, not just you, Greg.
But
I know you've
Can I
seen.
show it to you?
I know you've
Do-
seen
do you-
data, but that it's not Alec Italiano. Here's a picture of his ballot to prove it.
No,
I-
it's just,
I
but
bet
it
you
says
there
2016. It either might.
Edward Snowden.
Did
like, how
the
do you
data
not-
that you
I don't
have
think they
actually
should.
have a picture of my ballot that you looked up? I mean, did they actually have
I mean, they're
that?
spying on all your tax.
No, it had a line. It has,
keeping track of every Google search you've ever made.
It has a line that marks every year back for your life. 2000. So it would be, for me, it was 2008, 2009,
Yeah.
2010, and it says whether you voted and if you voted with your party or not.
I don't think any of it's.
So
I don't think
it-
there's any secrets. I think you are fully exposed.
The only way it doesn't is if you chop up your ballot.
If you split your ticket, which I don't know anybody who really does that anymore, then it makes a different connotation that shows that you did not vote
On kind of a sidebar,
a party line.
and this is why I'm still having a hard time like believing that is all the numbers for like the president.
By the way, probably by the
Democrat-
time this show is, if this show is heard of, I'm assuming I won't have access to Whack Blue. I'm still at DNC. They haven't kicked me out yet.
That's
Technically, I'm still a Democratic committee member.
we should update on people on the date. What is the date today?
Yeah.
November
But
November 11th.
Thing is, I got hosting November 11th.
2020.
It just rain after 4
So-
days.
so
of moonlight.
with
It's like
if
a
they
week
have
and a
ballot
day after election
information,
day.
right?
Yeah,
Maybe-
a week and a day.
Maybe this would be a good way to pay down the national debt. They're taking all of our internet information and selling it to make money, right? Take our vote,
what
the way we
people
vote
does, yeah.
information, and sell that crap to pay down our debt.
I mean,
Everyone owes like $60,000 to the government for your national debt. Like,
No, and
just
No-
start
nothing's
cutting-
out of the
cutting it
realm.
back.
Nothing's out of the realm of possibility. To your point, I'm just saying, and I looked at the Westmoreland County numbers and all the different precincts and all the different boroughs. That's when I asked you guys who were the two municipalities that voted Democrat. Which the answer to that you both got. You didn't even have a guess. It was
no, I was
City of Monessen and Laurel Mountain borough, which is like a borough of like 100 people. So I thought that was really funny. But Monessen was like the one strong, like Democratic stronghold that stayed Democrat in the whole county, which I thought was funny. But when I also looked at the numbers, a lot of the Democratic numbers for the president and the other state reps or state senators were a lot. They were off, and some of them they were off by a lot.
to
You know.
like lower or higher.
That's one of the arguments that they're all talking about is that
Yeah.
how many people just decide to say, screw the rest of the ballot, I'm just voting for the president.
Like more people
And
voted.
how is that realistic?
A lot of people voted for Biden, but then voted for the Republican senator or state representative. Because, and I think, and I heard of them
so?
talking about this in other states. Like it was more of a thing. Like,
do you
I'll-
realize how illogical that vote would be?
no, I know it's illogical,
Okay,
but that's
to think that. Like,
that's
I'm
why
just trying, like,
Greg, that's why I'm
you would
reporting
have
it.
to process.
Okay, so-
Like, I want my local leadership to be different.
Yeah.
because it's blue right now. But I think the blues got it nationally.
No, I
think that's.
I think it's
See, that
I-
old guy is the guy I want running
yeah.
the big
But
shit.
let's keep the conservative locals.
I think it speaks to Trump. It's like I'm a Republican, but I just don't like him as a
Trump picked up
person,
tickets.
so I'm not
He
going to
picked
vote
up
for
Trump had
him.
the largest
five
turn-
seats in
Oh
the
no,
House.
he
Trump
did.
had
But
the
we still
largest
have this
turnout.
disparity. So I mean,
Which is what's on with these numbers is he generally did better.
So you're
Yeah.
saying
Oh, I mean,
Trump turned the country
yeah.
to the right while they all hated him?
no, I don't.
Like
think
everything
he-
down ticket went to the right.
I actually think Trump moved the country to the left, but that's
But
just
voting wise,
a
you're
secret
saying
opinion.
everything other than the presidency went to the right.
no. I'm saying more people voted for Joe Biden, and then
Decided
they
want their
also,
House
but they also still
representatives.
voted their local politicians as Republicans. I mean, just
But what about the
taking
House and the Senate too?
yeah, same.
So like everything, so down government, like
Generally, went
generally went to the right.
to the right,
But only the presidency,
but the presidency
went
went
to
to
the left. But you
the
still
left.
think the country went to the left.
I think Trump pulled the country to the left
And
because
then-
he's secretly a moderate that loves to spend money, and that
I
was something that the
I-
Republicans always hated.
I agree with you there.
Yeah. And okay, he says he's pro-life or whatever, and I think a lot of people are like, you can say you're
And
pro-life,
they say he's
but
pro Second Amendment, and
but he's never really been that strong on it. So if you're like hardcore, like red Republican, like we have out here in Westmoreland County, Trump country, Western PA, that makes sense to me. They don't like Trump as a person because they just don't believe him on certain policies. So they're going to vote for Biden because they think he's morally better. I mean, I'm grasping at straws
morally?
there. I'm grasping at straws there. I mean, he
Hunter.
goes to
Hunter.
yeah,
he's
but
like literally doing everything they accused Trump of and couldn't prove.
yeah, but Joe goes to church.
Republicans haven't even started on him yet.
Joe goes to church
Oh,
on
we
Sunday.
got 3 years to
Trump
go.
goes to the golf course. I mean, to like that old school religious Republican. I think they don't like Trump at all, and Joe Biden actually looks appeasing to them.
I don't know. The evangelical vote is pretty strong.
Maybe.
I mean,
but he had the
it
largest
has
turn-
been.
The Republicans
It has
didn't have a
been.
turnout problem with this election at all.
This is the largest turnout of
Democrats
any.
definitely didn't.
Well, the Democrats
that's
didn't get
what-
anybody to turn
we
out.
don't know that.
Nobody
Alex.
turned
We
out.
don't know that.
You're
We don't-
saying they mailed in out of convenience.
wait,
If
yes.
they had to actually turn out, who wins?
I mean, I
Who
think
got bigger?
the
They've never
the
turned out
answer-
this many
the
before. You're
answer
saying
that-
the lamest candidate's going to turn out the most?
answer to that question is the winner of the 2016
Now, mind you,
election. Which was Donald Trump.
Yeah. So he's getting the bigger turnout. People are more motivated to vote
Listen,
for him.
Craig. We talked about this during the last
Yeah,
show
you
too.
did.
Was if more people voted in general en masse, then you're going to get more Democrats elected.
But that didn't happen this election.
But
we got more
it kind
Republicans.
of did.
Does it happen in
We've
Utah?
had the, we've
There's
had the
more
most
than-
turnout ever.
for just the presidency. I'm saying is you may go left. Otherwise, I
So
mean,
what?
So you're saying there would be more Democrats in office. It turns out
If
when
more
we had the
people voted.
largest turnout ever that people voting, we have now more Republicans in different positions across the country.
Yeah, but that's part of like a gentle. That's part of a reactionary sway. I mean, we always have that. If a Republican's getting in to the White House, then usually you have some kind of like push pull on the other side. We've seen that for many election cycles.
So I just learned about Socrates though, and his view on democracy. And I
Here's a left
completely agree with it.
We're going out. I was trying to. I'm gonna write down what I was about to say.
Yeah,
before
yeah,
going on
you
this
better.
island here. What? Go
I
ahead.
completely agree with it.
Would you read?
With Socrates.
About Socrates, his views on democracy. He didn't think that people...
Wait, what's the name of? Is this the apology?
What?
Like when you say you read Socrates.
No, I didn't read Socrates.
He just
I said
learned
I
about
learned
him.
a little bit about him because of this. Because I was like, as I'm researching about this, I came across this viewpoint of his. I didn't learn all about Socrates.
He didn't read every single word he ever spoke.
Right. I'm saying his stance on democracy is that he doesn't believe that people misinformed, people who don't know a lot about the subject should have been voting.
Yeah.
And democracy was kind of a joke until about the First World War anyway, so.
See, both sides think the other are ludicrous. You know, like the Republicans are like, you need to go and educate yourself because you're going to vote a socialist into office if you vote for Biden. And then the Biden folks are like, you need to go educate yourself because you're putting a madman into office.
is-
You know,
I'm
so,
not
I
talking
mean-
about that.
clarify.
I'm talking about the people who don't even watch the news because they hate
wait,
how divisive it is.
Okay, this is very important to clarify.
What
because-
is educated though?
The only news they got
Yeah,
was from
hold
Facebook.
up, Craig. Hold on. One of the big. We are not trying to. My issue with my personal issue with the mail-out balloting has nothing to do with like voter disenfranchisement. I believe that everybody should vote, even the dumb people, even the people that don't watch anything.
So it's not an access to vote thing, is what you're saying?
No, I think that the requirement is you have to show up in person. You have to care enough on a day to take.
That's what I'm saying.
Like to go to the mail and fill out your absentee ballot, to go stand in
We
line.
talked about this on
There's
election
some-
night eve. and
I'm
I-
not saying there
People
should
died for
agree
this
with
right.
you.
Like a lot of regardless of your race or your sex, a lot of people died for this right at different points of our history.
I'm
Like
not-
this has been one of the number one things you fight for. It's not supposed to be convenient. It's something that we have to fight for
Listen, Greg,
actively,
I
or we will
understand
lose
that.
it.
I'm just saying, basically, if more people voted,
I'm not saying there
Which
should
is
be...
why
if the government would like pay for rides for people to
when
go
the Democrats
there
told me
and,
that
like,
when
pay a
I was working
stipend
for the
and,
Democrats and they
really
told me
went
that
crazy.
the answer is run more enthusiastic candidates that
Well-
make your base want to show up. When you run Hillary, when you run Joe Biden, you have a turnout problem because nobody likes them.
Joe Biden had the most people vote for him ever.
He mailed. I'm putting an asterisk on the mail because this is not an enthusiastic vote.
Go ahead, put an asterisk on it, but
I know
the record's gonna
it's legal.
stand,
I
you know,
I respect it. It's standing. It's standing at the moment. Hold your cards.
Greg,
Hold your
I'm
cards.
defending the post office.
Yes.
I'm not saying that there should be an education.
I'm saying you're going to need a Republican
But
and
I'm saying
Democrat
that
on each route.
if
We're talking
you-
two people in each post office, a Democrat and a Republican, making sure that we don't have anyone screwing with this.
A normal way that you kind of like weed out the people who aren't paying attention to the politics is that they're not going to go show up
No,
because they don't
no,
care enough.
no,
And that's how you kind of weed out the people who shouldn't be voting.
Yes,
But if somebody
Don't-
cares
I'm
enough
not
to
saying
show
block
up and
them,
go vote.
and I'm not saying they should have to
Yeah.
wait in hours of lines.
Yeah, maybe
we
get
should
some more
open them up.
machines.
Maybe do
It should be
a
easy,
week,
but you
a
have
week
to
of
get
in person.
Right.
You have to get up out of the house and you have to go to the vote.
You
the
gotta go.
polling
You gotta go
station.
out to society. If you want to,
show
if
up.
you want to have a vote over what all of society's going to do, you got to go be a part of it.
And I didn't disagree with that on election night eve show. I did not
No, and-
disagree with
and-
that.
and
I'm
that-
just saying it's got to be easier. And if that means on every freaking block
I just
in the
want
city.
to clarify because a lot of the people who are attacking the mail-out balloting, they're trying to say that it's about disenfranchising voters, or it's about like not letting minorities vote, or not letting old people vote. It's not about that.
The
at
real
all.
problem-
We had an absentee ballot system always to accommodate
Right.
tough circumstances when you can't get to the polls.
It
on
was just a
election day.
volume thing here at this point.
Yes,
yeah.
and it was on that. It was hyped up because of something that was very conveniently helped the Democrats in a lot of other ways.
If you could,
Besides the mail-in
I
balloting,
mean, that's a
took out his
conspiracy
rallies.
theory that you can
No,
run with as long as you want
no,
to.
but with that thought being there, you can't blame Republicans right now for saying, "Hey
No.
guys, we have a month, we
Yeah.
have all these votes saved.
Oh.
Let's just
Trust
look,
me, if the
let's
shoe's on
look."
the other foot, I'd be irate. So
I'd like to prove mail-out balloting. If we're going to do this, I need proof that it works. So I would like to spend this month here going through and making sure that any abnormalities,
voted.
when you see a 500
Yeah.
vote dump,
Let's just call some names on it. Look at the past record, the record of voting,
Yeah.
and seeing if this is anything that could be up.
Somebody said this on one of my group chats. That'll take 3.5 years, and then it's like,
we
well,
have nothing.
then what?
That's exactly
That
the
doesn't matter. You know, I think
We have nothing to do. We have a whole month, and this is the fate of the soul of the country. What is it? The fight for the soul of America is on the lines. I think we can count. We still numerate people.
I think my other problem though, Greg, is who's going to pay for all this? Who's going to pay for the audit?
What?
I mean, who's going to?
The Federal Reserve's going to pay for it because they're just going to print more money.
Who's paying for any of this?
printing money,
It's
it
paying
would-
for lockdowns.
None of
It's
this
paying for
make-
all
But I
this.
mean, the government would have to appropriate money to like
You know who's paying for it?
sue
Counters.
themselves.
No
I mean,
counters. You paying state workers to go in and count. I bet you get Democrats and Republicans would volunteer.
Yeah, but
to go in and check this
Are
stuff.
you going to get the Democrats to go along with paying that bill?
No, I'm saying you could. I think you get volunteers right now. People just want to.
maybe
What
volunteers who want to skew the
Alec,
the vote
how
the other
hard,
way.
How hard would it be to take all of the people that you have on record voting,
Yeah.
for that voted this year, and then you have everybody that died in the state of Pennsylvania
I died,
since the last time we purged our rolls.
and see if that.
Run those against each other, and anyone
So-
that appears gets thrown out. I'm not saying that person should be criminally prosecuted that did it. I'm not, but we need to know.
You want a standard
number.
deviation. You
Yes,
wanna- you
I
wanna-
need to know a number.
What is?
I know
what's
there's
the,
some.
What's the recount margin in Pennsylvania? Like, how close does it need to be?
I think it's 10.
You don't know.
I don't know. We're not in. We're not inside.
We're not in,
We're not
okay,
inside of
okay.
it. Without. They're adding in those
See,
ballots.
I actually thought that was more the Republicans' argument here is they want to get the final number and like audit it all, because then if it does become within the margin, then they could do justify a recount and really make it more of a court case. And that hey, if you get to the point where it's that close, then by all means pull your legal levers. But until we get to that point, then you're just crying like a baby as per usual, Donald Trump. That's
But right and now that's one thing. So, Alec, are you of this variety that Republicans should just take this and shut up and take the results and go home?
at some point they're going to have to.
When did Hillary?
When did the
DNC completely concede their election to Trump?
In 2016?
Was
Oh,
that
no,
was
'cause-
that when the Mueller, was that when they kicked off the Mueller investigation?
Hillary says
which
she
was
wishes
started
she-
during Trump's transition process
I mean,
illegally.
I'm pretty sure Hillary Clinton. I'm pretty sure. I can't say this.
She
Definitively.
conceded in a meeting, but she said she wishes she never
yeah,
did.
I'm not saying
Okay,
saying
she
the
told
word
Biden to never do it.
She
All
picked up
Trump-
the phone and
That
called.
doesn't symbolically and
She
not,
got forced.
and then she
And
called
then she
Trump and
complained
conceded
about it
and then she
every
called
month.
the Brookings Institute.
Greg,
and-
all
That's pretty
okay,
bad.
fine. All I want is a symbolic gesture from Trump. Then he can go and do everything
No,
that he wants to.
because
Never.
he's taking advice
No.
from Hillary.
Yes, I am of that variety. Thank you for
Okay.
asking.
He's taking advice from Hillary Clinton. She told
doing exactly what
Biden to not concede.
Yeah.
She told Biden for this election, do not concede.
Especially if all
Trump's
if
just
all
taking
the
her
concession does is symbolically make you feel better. I sure hope Trump does not concede, because I don't know what it does. I don't know what that does serve. If he's because he's not actually he's going to pursue this in the courts. I'd rather him say and do what he's actually doing
Listen, that's
than
on-
start up an investigation during somebody's transition period.
Let him pursue it through the courts, but make the phone call.
No,
But he didn't lose yet.
what's the point?
Hasn't
Why
been
would you
called
make
yet.
the phone call if it's not if you
Because at
in
some
his
point
mind
he's going to shut up.
In his
I mean,
mind, this is not over.
but why-
Come January 5th
Yes.
or whenever the inauguration is.
So
I mean,
you waited 4 years to get rid of the man. You can't wait 2 months? He's been not conceding anything you wanted. He hasn't been apologizing.
I'm
He
that
brought
impatient
nothing
about it,
back,
Greg.
and
I'm
now
that
we
impatient
got to do
about
this
it,
today.
okay?
We got to seal the electors
And
today.
if he has the voter fraud he's talking about, why would you concede?
If you didn't, if you're not cheating, Alec, then let me just look at your glove. I just want to make sure there's no
listen.
sticky stuff on the glove. If you're
Trump-
not cheating, just show me your hands.
Trump's goal is what you said earlier, is to put an asterisk on this election. So even if he does
No,
lose
it will
in
always
all
be.
the court,
COVID will be
then
an
it will
asterisk on
always just be
everything that
the
has
reason
happened.
why he lost, and that's what he needs. He needs
2020
that
will forever
reason.
be an asterisk for a lot of things.
Right.
A lot of areas,
Sports,
everything is
politics,
it's gonna be an asterisk, but it's still legal. I'm not saying it
Yeah.
didn't happen.
I
I'm
mean,
not
they're
saying
not-
we don't have to
They're not going
live
to take
into
the
this
World
reality.
Series away from the Marlins or whatever.
No,
Or
but they better
whoever
not
won.
cancel. They better the Super Bowl will not.
Dodgers, not Marlins.
The
but
Super Bowl, I
Dodgers.
think, the Super Bowl was played at
Full disclosure, we have a baby here, and he was doing so good.
in my Democratic days. I make a wisecrack about Trump here with the baby crying.
What's the matter?
Yeah, okay. Well,
But yeah, so like, what's
really
what's the
good.
solution to the whole to how the election should be ran? Then
I think we were doing fine.
Just go back.
Can
to
we
the
just
old
go
system,
back? Or what I do like is we opened up stadiums.
Yeah.
So that was part of the NBA. That's one of the things they negotiated. Is we have these big public areas to vote. Let's decrease line in urban areas and open up stadiums.
Right.
Open up the schools, more polling places. All for that. I'm even for a national holiday where you like we do Monday.
Yeah, I wanted to say that earlier. Is
Give
why
people
not
off
just-
work.
Shut down the country for the day. There's no reason they
think-
can't get there. Make the bus service free.
I would be for that. I'm for a week of in person. You can go to any point. Now I think that you're gonna have less polling booths because you're gonna have to take
But
a week. But
I
I'm
also
for that.
I like how Canada does it too with the registration. You have to re-register every year when you do your taxes, so that way you get the old people.
In Canada?
Yeah,
Really?
I forget which.
No,
I think
yeah,
that was on Rogan. They were
Interesting,
talking about.
interesting tidbit there.
Yeah, they.
And
But if you had
that's a
to
good
every time you
compromise,
did
too.
your taxes, you re-register that year.
Democrat-
So
that-
if you skip your taxes, you're not voting.
a natural way to purge.
If you
the roll.
die, you're
A
not
natural
voting.
way- a natural
and
way
then
to-
there's no do something like that to ensure confidence in
Exactly.
the election. Don't go mail-in balloting with no
And even though
setup.
The
to it.
Canadians always have an answer. Okay, I love the Canadians for that reason. You know, they always have a solution.
here's why if I'm going to lay an argument to potentially kick Pennsylvania out of the Electoral College, there are states that do mail. You have Utah and Colorado,
And they
that
do
both
early
mail.
voting and all that stuff
But
too.
they
yeah.
everyone gets this ballot, and you can track it on your phone. You can track if you're in Colorado, you can actually track the status of your vote
I
when you
saw
send it in
people
early.
doing that. And
Like
they knew if it didn't go through, and then they
Awesome.
were showing up
Really?
on election day to make sure that it would go through because their
mean, had the-
ballot wasn't processed.
you
by
have the
that time.
count right on time.
Yeah.
Like it works. So we could have done that, and we had 8 months since the Democrats started arguing, and we had a governor that could have put all of his resources into making our postal service in PA trustworthy, or the voting. Now that we're turning the post office into a kind of polling station, we need to be
Yeah.
able to trust it as we would a polling station.
Do you think that if we had more early voting in Pennsylvania, that Pennsylvania would go more Democrat? Because that would follow that logic of more people voting.
I'm not willing. If we're going this,
I thought that would show up in person, but at least give me 4 days to do it. Have
Yeah,
a
we
week,
would just-
have a weekend overlap that, and then fine. Then I as a Democrat have nothing to really stand on as an argument anymore.
But if you
know?
made it a national holiday, voting day,
I mean, that's what I would prefer. You know,
you just shut
but,
everything down.
you
The
know.
country, we're just not going to make money for one day.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Today is Veterans Day. Go Veterans! Shout out to veterans. And
yes,
why we're also recording at 4:00 because I had the day off. But
why don't we have this day?
why
don't we
couldn't
vote today?
that's what I'm saying. Why couldn't we have voted
today?
today? That's the exact point I was making.
Patriotic day to vote. That would be.
But my final point about the post office
But I
is
didn't get to answer your question about the mails. Republicans always, because something that Republicans are scared is they don't seem to fare well in the mail elections. Like you have Utah, my
the
argument,
Republicans don't.
Republicans, they don't. But now
Yeah.
I would argue that the reason they did not fare well in the mail is because I disagree with this vehemently when I worked for the Democrats, but that door knocking, address taking, harassing the neighbors
Yeah.
is what they do. And I
Right.
thought it was the worst idea when the mail wasn't, because really you annoy these people. Like
Yeah.
you're going and someone doesn't really want to talk politics. Like you're
Right.
walking around with a holy book where you're selling candy like a kid. Like walking around speaking the good book of Democrat kind of can get annoying on Super Bowl Sunday. Like you're watching football on a Sunday.
But if
and
it's
someone's
more of an education thing, then
if you're getting their address and you just get them to sign up my papers, and so I'll leave you alone. You don't see them again. You get text messages on your phone once a month, and you get your mail out ballot. Now that person in a regular didn't turn out to vote for Hillary. That person now definitely would have voted for Hillary had they had that ballot sitting on their kitchen table
Right.
for a couple months.
Well, and I think the Democrats
And
did
that.
They did a good job of
They
that this
did that.
election because we
Which
talked
if
about
when-
on election IDs how many
For a
text
norm-
messages I got. and-
But for the record, in a normal election year,
They don't
without
do
the
that.
mail,
They
that's
don't do that.
No, they still do that. Waste the time with the door knocking, and it's cost them. In those, so you could argue that
Yeah.
they just played a mail game that Republicans have yet to build. Trump tried to put one together in the last 2 weeks because you can't get access to all the Republican houses and go to each one of them and go, listen, make sure, here's the paperwork, send in this ballot. You don't even have to go vote.
if there's one thing the Democrats love to do, it's educate. Like you have a lot of
yeah.
teachers, you got a lot of
Lectures.
unions, you got lecture, and you got a lot of
Panels, committees. We already got three
intellectualists.
Biden's already started 3 PAPS groups. 3 blue ribbons. We're going to have one for COVID. We're going to have one for crime.
There you go.
What's the third one?
I don't know. I'm putting you on the spot. You can think about it.
It doesn't matter. There's going to be 10, 20, 30 of these. Don't worry. Distinguished people will be running.
But see, that's what I'm saying. It fell into the Democrats' hands because all they wanted to do is educate people how to vote. This is how you vote by mail. This is how you do it. Do. And that, probably
It favored them
helped. That's
in this
why.
election for sure.
And that's why I think no one's really that upset to say like, oh, that. Or not so upset, so surprised that all the votes came in for Democrats into the voting because they were the ones that educated their voters about it, and Trump was the one that told them to go vote in person. So
We didn't try.
if all those mail-in votes from a mail route came in Democratic, then okay, that was the strategy from the get-go for them. So that's why I'm not all that surprised in calling foul here and calling travesty of the game even. But I think it's something to be considered. That was the strategy. This was a clear-cut thing.
I think if we're going to keep pursuing this mail-out balloting route, I think Republicans will be able to adjust. The only issue is in each state, your post office is controlled by blue or red. And if now...
Is that true, Craig?
You have a postmaster general. You have a postmaster general and a governor.
The post office is a very left-leaning.
Yeah, but
it is,
but whoever
that,
finds that, how well it's ran in the state, and how much money
they're not elected though. They're appointed. Who appoints postmaster generals?
the governor,
president,
with the approval
president?
of
the postmaster general.
Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
you
No,
have to
I mean
state-
like the
state
local ones.
Postmasters?
Like your mom's
They're
in
just
Ligonier,
promoted.
right?
They're just promoted from within. So they're literally at
we-
postmaster level. Like you don't even need a college education to do that.
But I'm talking.
It's just somebody who wanted to move up in the company and become
who's head of
supervisor.
Pennsylvania mayor?
I think there is a state.
There's like
Is there a
there's,
state?
there's
General.
levels to like the corporate. Like it's ran like a normal business but a normal business that likes to lose money. It's like how they're ran.
Thanks for differentiating.
But so they have the whole corporate structure of supervisors and useless people in this.
Right.
So what concerns me about it is the state in charge has control over the mail. That seems to me to favor them.
The political party
almost
doesn't really.
always.
But they are probably making the same connections. It's the same way Planned Parenthood, makes their connection, makes their donations. The post office does the same thing. The union donates to majority Democrat candidates.
I'm not talking about the money. I'm not talking about.
But they're making connections when they do that. When they make those donations, they go and ask for favors. It's just like how every president. Trump's
it's
right now
political.
making
Just
favors.
just
to
like a
his
normal
speeches
business
after.
is normally political. They're going out there doing the same thing.
Yeah, but
they're making connections.
That's normal for a private sector business. We're trying to talk about like a government program.
See, I thought the thing with the post office is they always wanted them to act more like a private business, right?
It's not. It's supposed to not be political. That's why it's not supposed to be Democrat or Republican.
Regular businesses aren't supposed to be political either. But
That's why they say they want the post office to act like a regular business and not be political. And it worked. You're right. It's like a failed small business that we all tolerate because it functions.
But
now it's not.
But they can't change prices until you go through.
It's not
they
built.
don't have the freedom to do that.
It's built for communications.
It's like Amtrak.
So you're asking the people
about
in
war.
Congress
How-
who never made these people who obviously don't know how to manage money to make decisions on what postage is. So it doesn't make any sense the way it's ran. It needs to be. They need to have the federal protection, the agency to protect the sanctity of the mail.
Yeah.
But they need to have the freedom to not have to go to Congress every time they want to raise stamp prices.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. All government
I'm
agencies
not-
have that issue.
I'm just trying to put this in the perspective of if I'm governor and I don't like the mail.
Yeah.
Because the mail-out balloting is going to hurt me, what I would do. Or if I like it, I think it'll help me.
Which you don't have that in Pennsylvania. You have a Democratic
that
governor.
likes it and pushes it. And that's what I don't like about them. It's not, to me, it's looking political. And it doesn't necessarily have to be. It's like you have Utah, where it's been red and it's been mail for a while. However, that said, these states that go mail seem to stay the same. And is that just because the governor has a lot of control over the mail? So if the mail is going to play a big role in the election, the governor is going to have a new say that he doesn't have that say over the polling places. He has it in the mail. He doesn't
Did you have the
that
option to send it UPS?
What?
Could you send it UPS?
I was wondering that actually. That was going to be one of my counterpoints
No
here.
idea.
I don't know if that
I
was even
think
an
you
option.
can. You can use private. You can use FedEx to send regular mail.
But,
So I don't see why you didn't.
I don't like
I don't know how
I don't
the
like a
process
third party handling votes.
I don't like this third parties. These random. I don't care if they're public.
I still stand to the.
I mean,
you got to show up. I think
the final point I was going to make about the post office is, who else were you going to have to do it? You know what I mean?
The
Like,
polls,
there are federal
the polls.
governments.
We have
there are
polling
federal...
stations. We have polling places.
But what are you going to do?
The post office doesn't have to do votes.
You're going to deputize, like, I don't know, 100 extra thousand people to
Right
do
now,
that kind of thing?
the way-
Like, you had the post office
this
who's
goes,
literally already
Alec,
being paid to bring
you want to
pieces of paper
you
from
want to take
point
me
A
this
to point
argument
B.
real sideways? You know how they want to get 2 cops
No,
in
I
every
don't.
car, one of each ethnicity?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, you want a black and white cop? Well, I want a Democrat and Republican mailman on every route.
Yeah.
And when these things are processed, I want Democrat and Republican making sure when they put them in bins.
You know what, honestly?
Like we do at the polls.
And you know what? That would have been. I would have been.
And
okay.
you're talking about money. We're
I would've
talking
been
about
okay
whether
with
this
that.
thing
I would've been
is soluble.
I would have been okay with that. I'm just saying, you already have an agency set up to bring pieces of paper from point A to point B. Why wouldn't you tap them to do this? There's actually an
'Cause they can't
efficient way of doing it for the government.
It is very efficient
Because
for
they're extremely understaffed.
for a person in the government. It's not for both sides
They're
of the
understaffed
government.
and they lose money. I mean, it's just, you know.
Well, it's because they do really stupid
We
stuff.
accept it, but I'm
Did you have to pay to mail your?
90% of
Did you have to
approval.
put a stamp on a mail-in ballot?
91%.
I don't. No, I actually heard that you didn't.
You didn't have to.
No, not in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Which is weird
That'd be weird.
because
Because then it's like they should at least be paying for it.
where are they canceling at? How do they know when it was sent in?
Right.
And stuff? That's also one of the questions.
Okay, that's a good question.
Okay.
How are we wrapping this up, Greg?
Let me move into this final stretch. My closing argument here on if there is going to be a fraud find that could change the election, but is not the Supreme Court nuclear option. We're talking changing votes, throwing them out. I'm saying if we just look and find fraud in the voter rolls, the zombie vote would have said in any other given year not possible. This year, I think it uniquely is.
Yeah.
If you were to, if your loved one was to pass away of COVID over the course of before election day, like this year, I would not hold it against you to send in a vote for them.
Yeah.
Like let's say your loved one died 3 weeks ago from it, and you wanted to send in a ballot. I would not hold that against. I don't even think that person should be punished, but I don't think that vote should count.
Right.
And I think we can and should check that. But that now before that same person would never show up in person
Yeah, so you
to
wouldn't have the
impersonate their grandparent or impersonate a husband or a wife. But if all it is you're having a sad day and your mail is sitting there and
like,
you
I
already
got
didn't
two
want to
right
think
here.
about this person and now you got their mail asking them what they would do. I totally get that.
Yeah.
But that's not legal, and that's we just need to not count that on the votes.
Right.
And that wasn't possible without the mail. This is strictly so. And I don't think we're talking maybe a couple thousand people. Like could have these could go both ways. The only way these are significant findings of fraud is if we're talking 1,000, 2,000, one direction. Like all of them are going to one way. And that's not. I'm not counting these. It could be a dump of 500 votes to one person.
Well, they had
Totally
in Allegheny
possible.
County back to back 4,000 ballot dump for Connor Lamb, and then 9,000 right after for Connor Lamb, and then he announced victory right after, like he knew they
Oh
were
yeah,
coming.
that Connor Lamb's one of the big ones. Because we're in ground zero of this.
Yeah, that's another investigation. Like this isn't just happening at the presidential level. Like
And
they're finding voter fraud down ticket where it's easier for them to find it because it's a local. They're not going across the whole country.
No.
They're dealing with their own area, and they're seeing like this one I'm talking about is where the nursing home in Butler all mailed in the same vote.
That was the next thing I had with the dead people.
And the
vote.
likely of a whole entire old folks home voting the same way. There's no grumpy old guy in the corner wearing his "Make America Great Again" hat on.
Some clerk at every assisted living nursing home gets everyone's mail and then takes it and puts it in all their boxes. When someone dies, all that mail that comes in, they get discarded.
Right.
That ballot, that person who's working there gets that ballot, knows that that person is not living, and has the knowledge. So if he votes for them, that person's not going to go vote twice. You don't have to worry about. You can just cast it. It counts. It counts. That is something that we can look into. That is provable, and that is wrong. I think we can all agree, no matter which
It
side
would take
that
a while
happens
though
to.
because we have to figure out birth dates and stuff or death dates. I mean,
That's public record. We have a list of everybody.
It's just going to take some time. Is the thing.
What I'm trying to say is, reasonably speaking, the zombie vote we should be able to figure out in a couple days.
Yeah.
If that's anything. Next one we move on to is that post office integrity, where that's going to take time to figure out if mail routes have been compromised.
Yeah. So for the most part, I'm not even worried about all that. I mean, I am worried. I don't want that stuff to happen in the future. But for as far as Trump getting elected here,
No.
my only concern is if he's able to get thrown out the illegal.
Well, this is why I think these numbers are important here. It's because I didn't even brought this up yet.
You didn't even bring it up
The
here?
zombie vote. No, this is the big thing we were talking about earlier. The zombie vote, let's say a couple thousand. Let's say a 1,500
These are dead people.
1,500 people filled out ballots because their loved one passed away over the course of this year.
Okay.
And overwhelmingly, if they have to go one way to matter. So let's say they go against it. They're against Trump. Their vote's for Biden.
Okay.
Number two, let's say but we have a nursing home or a mail route that has been compromised. Let's say max like 500 or 1,000 here.
Yeah.
Well, up to potentially 2,000 or 3,000. That's not going to flip any votes. I have some real questions about the homeless vote. And at the beginning of COVID,
I was talking about this before the election too. It's like, if you're homeless, how do you vote?
well,
You know, I mean,
exactly. I have it printed out because that's one thing that we did as good Democrats. Is the whole thing you get points for is registering people to vote.
You can't do
homeless
same-
people are really easy to register to vote. But you don't need a social security number or driver's ID. I need you to.
But
I need to
still
bring a
think
map
you
and you
still
draw a
need-
little X.
you still need an address though. I mean, how are you receiving
You
it?
literally bring a map, a Google map, and they draw an X on streets they hang out on.
Wow.
No joke.
In Pennsylvania?
No joke.
In
Pe-
Pennsylvania.
I assume this how Pennsylvania. I assume this is all over, but Pennsylvania. I think you have to. There's no law that you have to have a social security number or a driver's license to vote.
You still have
Here
to,
it is.
You still
Here's
have
the
to,
form for you.
You still have
Alec.
to register to vote though, don't you?
Just and
This
then
is this is the registry right here.
You know what
this
you
is
do,
all
too?
you got to basically. I can go to a homeless person with this at any point in the last year and say, "Please fill this out," and then bring them a mail-out ballot when they were staying in the hotels because they were all put in one place. They were put in camps at the beginning of COVID.
And then
Cuomo
tell 'em
put
you'll
them
be-
in the hotel.
Tell them you'll be standing here when they get back with their "I voted" sticker. I got a little shot of
Bag of crack, a little fifth of this
Yeah,
little
yeah.
mini bottle of whiskey or something.
Right.
Anything. I
But
mean,
see,
And
Greg,
there's
it's
your
still,
donation to the party right there.
It's still asking me the address where I receive mail.
yes, and that's what right here. If you don't have an address,
Send it to my house.
right here. If you
If you live in a rural
you are
address
homeless,
and
if
do
you
not have a
read if
street
you are
address.
homeless.
If you are homeless, do not have a street address. Use the map to the right to show where you live with landmarks and road names. Wow.
Like this is a real thing, okay?
where you spend most of your time.
Now,
If you're homeless.
Now, normally,
Well, this is
Do they
good,
actually
Greg.
send
I'm
them
taking a
stuff?
picture of
Does
this.
the
laughing.
mailman stand on this street and go, "Hey,
no,
it's this
is
guy
where
here"?
I need these questions.
Jim
For me
Bob here.
personally, I need these questions answered because to me, this was always ridiculous because this outlined why the door knocking thing was useless. Because what am I doing with this? This person's not going to go vote. What did you just do? Spend your day going up and down Skid Row just collecting signatures to say you registered this many people to sign up? That's not even a skill. But if you're going to get to mail them all ballots, and if the cities and small town Democratic mayors are going to move Philadelphia's homeless population into a hotel,
Yeah.
and then
And then you have them all
a
corralled.
good Democrat wants everybody to vote and make sure he goes and brings them all their mail-out ballots.
On the flip side, though, what's so wrong with having a homeless person vote?
Nothing.
Are you just saying like these are made up
Nothing.
people?
I would not brag about winning the hobo vote. and if these votes are not received,
Everyone
if they,
agrees that
if they were gathered, if they were harvested,
well, that's
inappropriately,
what.
then I
Okay,
think that's enough. In
If
Pennsylvania,
your argument is they were made up, then that's one thing. But
if they were harvested,
do I need to remind you
But-
that we live in a democracy
Yes,
and a person's
does-
vote
which
does
is why they
matter?
should have registered. But the thing is, and my argument is, you're wasting time because they don't turn out. They're not going to mail in. They're not going to. But if you
Well, if they're registering, they have obviously have intent.
but they
to
never
vote.
got mail-out balloting. And if COVID didn't exist, we wouldn't be able to deliver. The postman can't go find the homeless man's mail-out ballot. You'd have to go actively have DNC members walk around the streets and gather them one at a time.
Yeah, so what happened with
They
those
just put them all in
mail-in
one place. You just put them in a big tent. They
Yeah,
put
but
them in a
they
tent
weren't
for 8
given
months.
a mail-in
those
ballot.
the-
I mean, they would still have
maybe
to
those
show
are where
up
the
in
ballot
person to
boxes are coming
vote.
from.
They would still have to show up in person to vote in this homeless situation that you're talking about.
Not here.
No,
Yeah.
they'd mail
This
in
is
ballots.
delivered to the hotel. You're staying in New York at
That's,
the Marriott.
that's just a
You were-
register. That's just the register
Hobo
to
Craig.
vote.
Hobo
that's
Craig.
just a
Hobo Craig was on a box train in Manhattan, going back and forth, living on there before COVID. This was how he survived. Boom, bada bing. De Blasio shuts everything down, and they can't get any workers the essential workers to their jobs because all their homeless people are on their trains, are on their MTA.
I'm going to turn your mic down a little bit,
Okay,
Craig, because
so-
you're getting a little worked up over
This
there.
was peak. We're talking 40 days into lockdown here, and Andrew Cuomo was just driving me nuts because he's getting up there and he's going,
Yeah.
De Blasio, make it stop. And De Blasio's like, what do you want me to do? I can't fix homelessness and COVID. Like,
Cuomo drove a lot of people nuts during this whole
so
thing.
they put them in the Marriotts. They put them in the nice hotels
Yes,
that we
yeah,
can't
I
travel to.
thought this happened. Yeah.
So that's a convenient place for everyone to receive mail. They have addresses there. So all it would take is some
Okay,
good,
fine.
good conscious person to go say, I want to make sure these people, like you just said, and it's from franchise all voters. Let's go make sure they
fine.
vote.
They got them registered to vote, but that homeless person still needs to walk into a place.
No,
No,
mail
you
out
just hand it
ballot.
right back, you know?
Everybody got mail out
Yeah,
ballots.
but this isn't a mail-in ballot.
No, you have to do this to get a mail out ballot. You do this at the beginning of
and
COVID.
then they just hand you
do
one
this
right
back in
then and
February.
there.
You
No,
do,
they send
you
it
do
to you.
this in March.
Yeah, but
They
how-
send it to the X on the map.
you request. I mean, yeah,
I
Alec,
know. I mean, that's how they're coming up with a precinct for you to go to. But
So-
I mean,
voter assistance. Read this part right here.
you still need-
There's explanations for all this.
I require help to vote. I need this kind of assistance. Okay, fine. But I mean, it's just like you still need to receive mail if you're going to do a mail-in ballot.
I know. And if you're staying in a hotel, if you're staying in a camp,
Then that's where they're going to put on here the address where you receive mail.
they'll take all the ballots for everyone currently in the camp, and they'll take them to
Okay.
the
If that homeless person actually has access to some type of address where they can receive mail,
that's
then
the question that I would like.
then-
I guess
then
the
I-
Trump
then I
campaign
guess
to look
I'm
into right
following you
now.
a little bit better,
I do
but-
not know what happened in different states. Right now, you have a lot of state races in California. The homeless population in California is a beaut. 150,000 people are homeless in California. That's enough.
That's why
to affect,
everyone's leaving there.
and that's enough to affect
did you
some
go
big
over all the
districts.
homeless numbers when I was upstairs?
No, let's do that. Let's do that now for the
Yeah. Because I was surprised. What you say Pennsylvania was 15,000?
We're not bad. We're winning
Yeah.
for our state size. Who number one? California. I threw that at 150,000. They're the only ones over 100,000.
Do you have percentages too?
Percentage of the total population? No, but I do have percentage in when we get to the controversial
Percentage of the
states.
state. So what was
of the relevant states I have.
so what was California?
California's 151,000.
151. And do you have total population of California?
No, but it's not. This is just for scale.
Let me just. I know. I'm just trying to do some percentage. Let me ask Google what the population of California is. As my
Why
dog.
don't you just search the average homeless percentage rate in the country? If that's the number you look, it's not really relevant.
No, I'm
here.
trying to do. I want to do percentage difference.
You actually might freak people out at home who are listening to this who are going, you know what? Let's check on the homeless. Vote. Can we find the vote? Give me the vote. It's like, I don't. In each state, it's different. I'm saying this is a major problem that I used to make fun of that I think should look.
How many people do you think
It's
live
like,
in California?
You have a right to vote if you're homeless. For all the homeless listeners out there, you have a right to
Probably-
vote.
How many people do you think live in California?
Let's just look it up.
We have.
No, I have
Oh,
the
you know
numbers.
it?
I want to know
Oh,
what
I
your
don't-
guess is.
Oh, my guess.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go 50 million.
Yeah, probably somewhere. Oh no, less.
We're 6.
Yeah, probably 50 million.
39.5.
Okay. I'm happy with that guess.
So.
All right, number two. How many homeless people in New York?
in New York.
New York City alone.
That's only 0.38% of the population in California, by the way.
That's a lot of homeless people.
And what was the number?
In this given city, that might be 2,000, 3,000 votes.
200,000 in New York?
No, 150 is the highest. New York City.
150 was the highest.
Yeah.
Oh,
New York City's
okay.
number 2. It has
Okay.
60,000
Okay, I was
in
gonna
New
say
York
100
City.
then.
60,000, 90,000 in all of Western New York, including
So
Western New York.
60,000 in New York City, 90,000 every total.
There were 60,000 homeless people living in the hotels of New York City for 3 or 4 months that could have easily been harvested votes. Now, New York, that's not enough to change anything in New York.
Right.
In Philly, I don't know. That's where Pennsylvania.
I was gonna say,
That's
yeah,
where we come down to
where-
Pennsylvania.
you said
Third highest is Florida at 28,000.
Okay.
And now we get down to 4, 5, 6. Everything's under 15,000 from here
Yeah.
on out. PA, 14,000. Trump's currently down 50,000 votes. That's 30% of his margin.
Yeah, but it's still not enough.
No, but we're pairing. We got zombie votes here. We got zombie votes. We got corrupt mailman, and we got the hobo vote.
Okay.
There's just 3 really
Worst case scenario in the zombie vote, how many people
worst case scenario on the zombie vote. I'm going to go 2,000
in Pennsylvania?
in Pennsylvania.
And you got 14,000 on the homeless.
16,000, 20,000 total.
It's still just the late ballots.
But yeah, that I'm not saying this is. It has to be enough to cover. We don't. There's a big issue in PA with the late ballots. But I'm talking
Again, if that gets you within the margin for a recount, then okay, I see the strategy.
Well,
you
and
know,
okay,
but-
to get it thrown
full
out.
time in other states. Right now in Georgia,
Yeah, to get it audited.
Georgia, Trump is currently losing by 14,000. The homeless population is 10,000, and Stacey Abrams was the one registering everyone to vote.
What a
And if
story
we've
Stacey
already
Abrams
talked.
is.
Yeah, we talk about someone who
Yeah.
deserves like a trophy for her work in the Democratic Party. I mean, I don't personally like
the use of the GOTV program. But good Lord, she managed to marshal every Democrat that's ever existed in Georgia for this election. You're gonna have to do it twice, and that's the next week's episode. I'm going with the night the lights will go out in Georgia. It's a song you guys should listen to.
Okay.
Going into it, but Georgia is gonna be
If it's not copyrighted, we can
all
play it on the
money,
podcast.
all partisans. Who said Andrew Yang's moving to Georgia? Everybody is going to Georgia right now for a month.
But
It's
we're
going
on-
to be the bloodiest Senate battle in
And,
American
and if
history.
you haven't heard, we're in a runoff here, basically for Congress.
A runoff for the soul of America.
Into Georgian precinct. I was reading more
Arizona
about,
too. Trump's down 4,000 votes, and there's 10,000 homeless people in Arizona. So right there, Craig,
That could do
you're
it.
talking 10,000 homeless people, a margin of 4,000, and that's still counting.
If you're able to throw them all out.
I'm sorry, a margin of 12,500. 12,500. That's where Arizona flips on my math. As there was enough illegal votes on the Democrats that they could have harvested to flip Arizona, at least.
But Pennsylvania doesn't.
Georgia too. Now PA right now, no.
Yeah.
That's what but PA is true. The thing with Georgia and Arizona is they're both red ran. So there's not going to be massive systemic flaws. Like the governor of Georgia would not allow
Yeah.
tens of thousands of votes to
And-
be cheated.
Right.
Wolf, what?
Jeb
Don't forget
Bush
about
would.
the software issue you got going on up in Michigan too.
Yeah.
See, I don't believe in the software issue.
I don't
That's
have
a bunch of.
I didn't do the Michigan map.
Well, they are definitely
Michigan has
had
an
6,000 in that county that they audited.
Blue
if,
states,
if that
hobo
software repeated the same
Stop the
issue,
steal!
if that software repeated the same issue
Low
in the other
levels, low
counties,
Yeah,
that's enough to change the whole outcome of the vote.
I still need some proof. I still need some people up on the stand under
Are you
oath
denying
saying
that? What I've
this
laid
is
out
what's
here?
happening.
Are you
know,
admitting
so-
that the reasonable people that work at our state government should, with the data that we have, should be able to figure out these?
Oh yeah, no, I agree.
This is all you don't need 3 years.
Yeah,
It's not
right.
litigation. This is a yes or no. We all agree on the law.
I'm still
we just
saying-
don't agree on whether this exists or not. And if it doesn't, let's prove it and get that to bed.
Somebody still has to fund it though, Greg. That's what I mean.
Yeah,
That's just,
we
you
are
know.
finding all kinds of things right now. The integrity of
I
our
know, but
election
you
is
need
the
to
most
get, you
important
need to
thing.
get the government to okay that spending. I mean, it doesn't just happen out of nowhere. And if the Democrats are in
Alec,
control,
what
then they
spending?
would
Alec, I
they
could,
would
I
never
could do this
pay
for
to
free,
audit
though. I know,
themselves.
Alec, but I could do this for free.
You could maybe.
So
I don't know.
how
Are they going to
hard
be able to
is-
get 50 other thousand people to do this for free?
I
you know,
think
so
enough people care. I think Craig would be interested in taking a look through the voter rolls. I think a lot of people
Yeah.
would like to look through these numbers.
Oh,
I think
dude.
Democrats.
Craig's
I mean,
busy. I'm busy. I got to go
I'm
do
a
a
stat
bathroom.
guy, though. Yeah, you got a kid to raise here. You're making the baby cry, Alec.
Yeah. We're over an hour though.
Any
so.
final? The only final thought I'd like to add on to this, which is kind of differing from the whole part of the episode, is Andrew McCabe yesterday truly did awful on that hearing, and it was not covered. CNN, no major news network spent a minute on it after we spent 2 years on the Mueller report.
Yeah.
This is about the actual.
Oh, they won't even let them talk about the fraud.
And like basically the gist.
They cut off.
Yeah.
They
oh,
just
yeah.
cut out.
They just completely.
Which makes no sense. They had no evidence.
Just let him talk.
They have more evidence.
Let them
on
play.
this.
Play. Count it out. Let's play. Let's let
mean,
everybody
yeah.
play. The news needs to quit telling everybody how to play the game and let the parties move.
Yeah. That's a
And
fair
on that
point.
note, that hearing, people should see that, because what he admitted to was he was too stupid and too dumb and too ignorant and didn't have enough time to actually look into the key piece of investigation for his reason on starting what would be a 2-year probe into the incoming administration while they were in transition. After the people spoke and they elected them, Comey, and he threw Comey the wolf. He said Comey knew, and it's like kind of like a wicked.
Remind us who we're talking about here again.
Andrew
Greg?
McCabe is the deputy FBI guy under Comey, and then Comey was
He's the one that just got fired.
he was fired a couple days before he turned 50, and he wants his pension.
Uh.
And he went on CNN like 2 years ago, and now he's finally being brought up to these hearings.
Right.
And what I guess what I'm getting to here is that depending on where you stand politically, I'm not going to change your mind anyway on this.
You can try though.
You need to go in person. These hearings from abroad, the threat of the law needs to be around you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you are getting questioned,
We talked about this with C-SPAN in the last episode.
Like being a dirty cop by Congress, and that's what they're accusing. McCabe is a dirty, crooked ass cop.
Right.
If you're getting accused of that, you should see the senators around you. You shouldn't be sitting in your room wearing your underwear. Like this COVID, like, I don't care.
You're calling for more
You show
transparency
up.
in the government,
You show
basically,
up to
right,
the
Greg?
American Senate. Like you have that respect to the American people. The people's house has called you to speak.
It goes without
You
saying.
show
And
up.
they can test
Government
every
should be
single
more
person before they
parents.
Yeah, they're all tested.
They have the test.
Andrew McCabe is perfectly healthy. He's not in the risk zone. Andrew McCabe doesn't
Joe
even fit.
Rogan's testing every single guest he has on
Get
his
him in
show.
there.
Like,
Because he
I should have tested you guys before you came to my house.
He would
Jeez
test
Louise.
everything.
he would have been sweating if he was there by himself. And
Yeah.
I want to know who the people off to the side of the cameras that are in the room with them. I want a video. I don't want a video. I don't want their web screen. I want to see that they're by themselves,
Yeah.
not working with somebody with cue cards saying, "Don't answer this, answer this." Oh, that question's an ask. That's bad. That's insanity.
Yeah.
Because this is important. Even if you are a listener who thinks it was all nonsense and that Trump is crooked, basically, if you're wrong, you cannot. You won't be able to find out with this method of this travesty of the court hearings.
Of the game here, yeah.
And the point here is just we need to have more trust in our government,
Yeah.
and they're not doing anything to
Accountability.
get to make
Accountability.
us want to trust them.
Yeah.
Accountability.
My final thought is on the Georgia election. I think we should talk about that, the runoff, next show.
I think, yeah,
'cause
next
that
show-
was really interesting.
Next
And-
show's going to be the focus.
And I was listening this morning on a podcast, actually, trying to do some research on podcasts, on a different podcast, and they were talking about this race and how the guy and like all these things that happened the last minute. I mean, it was pretty interesting. I mean, there was some key moments, and that happened in that just to get it to even here.
If this country does make a big turn here,
the incumbent has been in for like 20 years or something long like that. So.
it's tough to explain how important Georgia is.
Yeah.
If the Republicans hold Georgia, they can do 2 years and not pass a damn bill.
I mean,
They're gonna
Atlanta-
sit on their hands with a Republican majority until
Atlanta's like the
House.
fourth or fifth biggest city, I think.
It is.
It's a big city. I mean, this is influential.
Which it's tough for me to believe that kind of like Nevada voting, I guess, to cut off its own ear. It's so tough for me to believe that these states are blue because
Yeah.
Las Vegas will not exist.
Right.
Atlanta in a
Right.
blue state, rap community, there isn't going to be concerts. The club scene's all gone
Yeah.
under a Democrat. So if you want to keep your city and say the capital of the South, it'll move to Florida.
Mm-hmm.
If all of a sudden Georgia just decides for the next couple of years they don't want to participate in the economy, which I don't know. We got that to touch on next time too. Did we go almost this whole time without talking about like COVID cases or anything like that?
We did. I don't think we talked about
Yeah.
COVID. I mean,
How
it
about
came
that?
up here
We
and
should
there.
put that in
but
like that when you're listening to the show. We're not talking
Yeah.
about COVID cases here.
purely political here. so.
When the hospitals are filled.
All right, wrap
that
it
is
up,
when
Greg.
I'll
We're
go.
way over an hour. So
Thank you for tuning in, everybody.
And you can't talk about COVID on YouTube, by the way.
Really?
Yeah,
they flagged.
shadow ban you.
They
Can you call it
flagged.
China flu?
No, you're not really even allowed to. You're not. You're just really not allowed to bring up the virus at all.
They noticed that we
it
were
won't
talking.
matter for us. We don't.
They noticed on our election night eve that we were talking politics, and there's like a little thing there being like, want to know who really won the election?
Yeah.
Because I think they were like, oh, here's a bunch of podcasters saying that Trump won or whatever,
Hey,
But I thought that
we're
was
getting
fun.
views. I think we're up to like 10 or 15 people.
Yeah, we're
Maybe
getting
20?
a following.
Yeah.
We're getting a small following.
This was a better show. We had and I hopefully someone, if we can get to the Trump campaign, I don't even know who to contact. This hobo vote, you're running out of time. There's the potential for something to be up, and you can look. We can know for sure. I didn't like.
Let me cut Greg off before he goes on too much longer about this.
I'm gonna lose the hobo. If I do ever run for anything, I can just throw out the homeless people. They're
We'll,
not gonna
we'll
like me.
update everybody on the
I
hobo.
do
vote
believe they
later.
have a right to vote. I just think they should have to require a little bit of work, and Democrats should not be the one who are helping them fill out paperwork.
Talk to everybody next time, guys.